Hi and welcome to BikeGremlin YouTube channel. My name is Relja from Novi Sad, Serbia, the third big rock from the sun. And in this video I will be talking about Wera Zyklop, or however it's pronounced, ratchets or ratcheting spanners, however it's properly called in English. And I will explain all the specifics, all the pros and all the cons that I've encountered when using these tools. And I haven't seen that mentioned in some brochures or on online reviews, and I will not be making a judgment of whether this tool is very good or not. My goal is to give you the pros and cons and all the details so that you know for your use case if it's a good choice or not. And I will also be discussing their sockets and other adapters that come with the ratchet, and especially this set that I bought for myself, Bicyle Set 7, that's what it's called. So it's general, most things are universal throughout the different sets that Wera sells of their bits, and the ratchet is always the same. I will be discussing the 3/8 size ratchet that I got with this tool, and that's about it. We can now get started. If I wanted to put a brief explanation or a brief recommendation, I would say very poor value for the money compared to available alternatives, but it is not a bad ratchet. And as far as their sockets go, it's a bit of a hit and miss. Now let's start. I will first, here I made a table of contents that will be visible in the video's timeline and in the video's description. So we'll start with discussing the ratchet itself, and then we'll talk about color coding, serrations on sockets, and bit length and profile. Those are the things that I've noticed. So let us start. This particular set comes with a pouch for carrying. It seems sturdy enough, okay, and it looks very practical, and I always use, almost always use bicycle or motorcycle to go and do some field work. And so for me, having a compact set that has all the bits that I generally use with the ratchet on bicycles, this looked promising, as if they asked the bicycle mechanic what kinds of sockets and the bits are you using generally with the ratchet, and what ratchet size would cover most in the best possible way. So that part is good, but the other part that was probably not done with consulting mechanics who do actual work, at least in my opinion, that's not so good. So we'll discuss that. This is closed with the Velcro. That's not very reliable, but you can always wrap some rubber band on it when the Velcro gets worn. Then this is how it's open. And first let's discuss the ratchet itself. This is what it looks like. It's 3/8 of an inch, so for bicycle mechanics it's the smallest one that lets you do all the work that you need. I couldn't find the torque specification of what is the maximum torque that I can use with this, but even mounting bottom brackets and removing those that are not really galvanically corroded, this did the job without slipping, without getting damaged. And I have an article about the socket wrench sizes, the ratchet sizes, and what torques you can generally expect to get from different sizes and so on. I'll put that link in this video's description and make it pop up in your top right hand corner if I don't forget when I upload this. But sorry for that digression. Anyway, this is the ratchet, what it looks like. It's got 72 teeth, and that provides you 360 degrees divided by 72, so about 5 degrees of rotation, and that lets you work in very confined spaces when you haven't got much wiggle room to the left and right. That's one thing. It's more or less standard nowadays. There are other ways to achieve more levels of engagement through a turn using larger teeth and fewer of them, but that's a topic for a separate discussion, and I've only seen that in some very old bicycle free hubs. It's now become obsolete, even though I think it's a superior design. at least in my opinion, though I'm not a mechanical engineer, so take this with a grain of salt. But I digress, that's more or less standard. One of the things that this wrench offers is that you can choose direction. If you turn it clockwise, then it will work for unscrewing, and if you turn this counterclockwise, then it will work for screwing in. It's a bit counterintuitive compared to the old set of ratchets that I have that served me well. This one is made by KS Tools, where I switch this to the right for screwing in and switch it to the left for unscrewing, so very intuitive. This is the opposite, somehow, at least in my logic. It also has this option for ejecting. You press on this to mount and to eject bits. Here is the retention ball that gets inside, so you can use it, and it holds them firmly, quite firmly in place. That's not an issue. Let's compare it to my other tool. This one holds it a bit less fiddly, but at least it's a lot cheaper. So that's one thing. Okay, so it has that option, and also what's interesting about this one is that when you pull down on this, then you can swivel the head, and it generally has this position to stay completely upright when a small notch that is hidden inside here gets stuck inside this. So it holds it. I can move it slightly sideways, and then as I'm turning it, there, it's locked into place and holds it pretty firmly, so I can use this as a screwdriver even for cross-headed nuts or for cross-headed bolts where I need to put some downward pressure to prevent camming out. And generally it's practical and makes work faster. Even if you need to work faster with the socket, it's a good idea that you can generally use it like this, and this does act a bit like a flywheel, so it lets you spin it very quickly while it's easy. I'll get a bit more on that later, but here when it's in this position, you can press on this to push this out, to eject and mount. So you cannot reach it by your hand, but you can use this. Now it has two other positions, or four if you like. I can hold this down and move it, and then it has these two notches, so I can lock it in this position at a slight angle, giving me some more clearance. I don't need this when working with bicycles, but I can imagine scenarios when this is quite handy. And of course you have the normal position. So those are and it can swivel all the other way around, so but that's effectively the same, so that's not really relevant. It's just practical that you don't have to worry whichever way you turn it from this position, you're good. And of course when it's put like this, then you cannot use this to eject, you have to press here. So my main complaint about this is that it's counterintuitive for selecting the direction. If I want to unscrew something, I need to turn right and turn left counterclockwise for screwing in. However, that also has an advantage compared to my old ratchet, because this part, if I'm screwing something on and I want to hold it in place to prevent it from camming out, there are some situations where I need to do that. With ratchets, I can move this by my hand sometimes, especially on the big half-inch one. This is 3/8. But here, I've never had it happen. For some reason, this works very well, and it generally doesn't get stuck on my arm enough to disengage it, to switch directions. Maybe it will get worn over time, but for now it's working very well, and I like that. Now this, I saw this advertised as a super feature that allows you to super fastly turn. They imagine you hold it like this here and then you turn. In my opinion, the way I use tools, that's nonsense. I am planning, after I make a review and use it for a bit more time, to cut this plastic away so that I can use the narrower section for spinning even faster compared to using this wider diameter. So this is, in my opinion, nonsense. Maybe in some scenario where I want to put some preload and still turn it, but I often catch this and oh, I forgot it's spinning, so I have to move back here. Maybe I'll get used to it, but it looks as if it's, for now, it looks as if it's not very well thought out, and they advertise this as an advantage, but I'm not really impressed with this design. The handle is very comfortable, and its length is, let's compare them here like this. If we put them side to side, the handle length is the optimal length for this side of ratchet, this size of ratchet, because it doesn't let me use too much torque to damage the mechanism, but it is comfortable and long enough for any torque that I would normally reasonably use with a ratchet of this size. So that is good. Now that's as far as ratchet goes. Here it has the mark 3/8 of an inch in case you, and this is the model 8000B. You can buy these separately. They cost about $50 in Europe, so they are very expensive in my opinion. And they don't look much more higher quality compared to this one. The amount of play and wiggle is more or less similar, but they are not bad. That's for the ratchet. Now let's move on. The color coding, yes. When I got this set, here I hope you can see in the pictures, this 10mm hexagonal adapter was marked with blue color. This is 10mm hex. And so I thought, great, it just matches my color coding. Here you can see my color coding on tools, just a small digression. I've made already a video about this, but I used only 4 colors, and they change, the same color is repeated every 4 sizes. So there are 3 sizes in between, so I know that 10mm is a lot smaller than 14, so I will not by mistake grab a 10 when I need a 14 and vice versa. But the other sizes that look more similar are of different colors, so I can easily, without spending effort to look at numbers, get the tool that I need. That's my color coding, and I use that for every size. If it's a 10mm, it's number 10 Torx, or if it's 10mm hex or 10mm socket, I use blue. And the same goes for all the other colors. However, Wera, for some reason, decided that they will paint their hex adapter in blue, but for 10mm, but for 10mm socket they chose yellow color. That's, in my opinion, completely illogical. I don't know how they expect people to memorize every specific color for every single different type of attachment. It's a completely, in my opinion, nonsense. And of course I did paint these. This is not how they came from the factory, so 10mm is blue, and so is the 6mm, and the same color repeats every 4 sizes. So that's for the color coding. That is a good idea. If they had a budget to use 10 different colors, it's great, but they completely wasted an opportunity to make something logical that's easy to use, and they just painted nice looking colors. That's one thing. Another thing is these serrations. Do you see where they made serrations on the sockets? Here, this one is not painted, so you can see better. You see, they made them here. And so, I don't know, maybe they thought I will use this just by hand and then have these serrations here, but it's nonsense. They could have made them somewhere else. Why? Because when I put this on a tool, so I prevent it from dropping or losing it or anything. Even if I want to use my hand to turn it, I cannot easily reach here. It's very inconvenient. This, by KS Tools, has serrations in the logical place where I would generally wish to catch this naturally. That's 14mm by KS Tools, and this is 14mm by Wera, where this is, it's awkward. It's very awkward. So, not a good idea, not a good design, in my opinion. Complete nonsense. And that's for the I will just make a step back. I forgot to mention one thing regarding the size of this. It's this swivel mechanism, of course, takes more room, and the necessary downside is that it is larger than the other tool. And even this narrower section, if I need to work somewhere very close to some other edge or a wall, this narrower section is here. It's wider compared to using this section here of the side of this tool. So this one lets me get into a more cramped spaces compared to this one. With bicycle mechanics that's not an issue, but I can imagine a scenario where that would make a difference. So that is a downside, but it's unavoidable because of this option. So it's just a pro and con, and I would not consider this to be a design flaw. That's just how it is, and I generally like and find this option to be convenient, and I use this tool. The ratchet itself is quite good, even though these sockets are nonsense. And about sockets, the serrations, yes, I mentioned that, and about bit length and profile. I hope I will not forget to show a video demonstration where I could not use this 8mm thing on either wrench. This one was too wide and this is too long, and so I used my old wrench with a bit holder and my shorter 8mm bit to get the work done. So I will show that video in a second. This is what Wera's marketing team thinks bicycle mechanics need, and this is what bicycle mechanics really need. Smaller head, short adapter, as short as possible. Okay, now let's move on. So that's one downside, but of course with a head like this, there's no escape, but they could have included a shorter bit as well. I would have found that to be useful. This longer one also has its pros, but it has its cons. Also, they say they narrowed down this section on both of their bits. So this section is narrower, and that lets you get into some spaces where there's not enough room for all this to pass, and that's not too bad in and of itself. However, this section here is wider than the hex section. I don't know why they didn't machine it all the way down. Maybe it's cheaper to produce, to manufacture that way, but it does create some extra width, and I can imagine a scenario where that could cause a problem and require to use some other design of a bit. So that's for that. Did I forget to mention something? Yes, I like the selection of bits. That's very good. So you get from the smallest, that's 6mm, to 15mm, and 50mm is made deeper so that you can easily work on even longer bolts on some wheels. That's very good design and a very good choice in my opinion. These are super quality. I love the bits that Wera designs and makes, and their sizes. You got Torx, set of Torx, then you have the hexagonal ones, 6, 5, 4, 3. So it covers all the sizes. I would like to see a shorter 8mm here, as I said, but what can you do? They also included this nice bit holder that works very well. I love this design they make. So you just pop this in, and you need to hold this pressed to let it in, and then it gets stuck. It cannot move, and then to release it you also press this. So it holds them securely in place, and it is for 3/8. I didn't have a 1/4 inch hexagonal socket holder for 3/8, and now I have one, so I'm happy with that. It looks like a good quality. I used similar like this on their screwdrivers for bits, and it's very good. I also love the system how you lock this in. Just turn it clockwise to lock it in, then turn it counterclockwise to release it. Complete opposite logic of this, of course, but what can you do? They also included an adapter from 3/8 to 1/2, and many of my bottom bracket tools are made for 1/2 inch design, and this is very welcome, as this tool looks to be of decent quality and strong enough so I can tighten down bottom brackets with it. And for loosening stuck bottom brackets, breaker bar is always a better option, even compared to using a 1/2 inch longer and stronger ratchet. That's about that. Now they have this extension bit, but you don't get a T-handle, but for bicycles you generally don't need that, except one longer for breaking stock stuff, but this set does not have that. And they also included this nonsense, and so I will probably use a small screwdriver. Here you can slide it off just to release these two things that hold it in place and get it loosened. But I will not be taking the time on the video for that, so I might not need to cut this off. And also I like this one. Here, let me show you how this works. You put a socket on it. If you put it all the way in, it's more or less stuck, but if you just not release it all the way out, but just sort of halfway, then you get to use this at an angle, and that can come inconvenient, though I've seen high quality adapters that let you work at an angle, but this is not bad. It's welcome. Definitely not a bad thing to have at hand. So did I get it all back right? Yes. And for carrying things around on the field, I like having a layout like this, because in case I can easily take a peek and see if I manage to miss something in the grass or on the ground or somewhere, and I know that I've packed everything so that I can go. Also, this that holds the ratchet with the Velcro works okay, but I don't expect this Velcro to last very long, so this ratchet will probably rattle around as I carry this, but that's okay. It won't fall out, hopefully. What else did I want to say? Yes, should you buy this? This ratchet costs about $50. And now let us move the camera and show you what I bought for about, and still is available on Amazon, for $100. Let's go. The whole set is over $100, 100 something on discount, but the ratchet itself is $50. This whole set cost me about $100, and it has all the bits and socket sizes that you're likely to encounter. I'm not advertising this, I'm not selling it. It has this one that, like a screwdriver, that you can apply more torque. Sometimes that's handy. It has extensions. It has these, I'm not sure what it's called in English, but not the best option. There are higher quality options for getting things done at an angle, but it lets you work sometimes in a pinch if you need to. It has these T-bars, at least for the largest one, though it does miss a breaker bar for 3/8 and for 1/2 inch. You don't get a proper breaker bar, and that is the only downside. But you also get for spark plugs with rubber, you get deep sockets, you get normal size sockets, you get these hexagonal ones. The bit quality that comes with this set is not as high as Wera, but it's far from unusable and what I would call bad. So you get a lot more things for less money, and the quality does not seem to give me any problems in practice. It may be of a bit less good quality, I cannot judge it. This just works, and it's super cheap, and this is my go-to set. This is, if I don't know what kind of work I'll be doing, if it's not just bicycles and I expect to be using ratchets, this is a safer thing to carry, and it costs a fraction of a cost compared to Wera, and the things are more reasonably designed. Here, this extension does not have that nonsense thing that turns around and spins, but it has serrations where it's logical to have them. So this was designed probably while consulting with someone who uses the tools, while Wera's design, to me at least, looks like they did ask bicycle mechanics about the sockets they want to use, but then had some marketing expert make it all looks nice and colorful. And maybe if you have a better use for these functions that the Wera set has, please use the comment section below. Maybe I am missing something, and the same goes for color coding. To me it's illogical, but I may be mistaken. This is my opinion, and based on my experience with this set. In a few years I'll know if it's durable. I don't regret buying it because of this package and these options. It's handy, and I am using this one now mostly, but I don't think it's a good value for the money, and I do find frustrating some design choices that they made, and I am mostly sorry that these sockets that came with this set do not fit into my old box, so that I can just put them somewhere where I will not lose them and put the sockets from that KS tool set here, because they are more logically designed at least those small things, but it's not a big issue. I was just unpleasantly surprised and found it illogical in practice when I started using this tool, and took took a mental note of that to share, and so that you know what you can expect generally. I hope this video has helped you. Again, I cannot say this is a good thing to buy. I cannot say I recommend it. I would definitely recommend that KS tool set. It's a great value for the money, and it gets the job done. This is just a luxury set. If you already have your sockets and everything covered, it makes sense to buy a tool like this for these options. It's convenient, it's nice, I use it especially with bicycles when I'm working. And if you need some sort of smaller set for easier carry, then you can see if there's something matching that Wera makes for bicycles. I think that this, I haven't tested it in the field yet, but I expect it will be more practical to carry, smaller, lighter, and it will get me to do the things that I need with it. So sort of almost very good, almost excellent. That would be my conclusion for this. It has pros and cons, very niche, very specific, not the first thing to buy, but far from poor quality, far from what I would call bad tools. So there you have it, and definitely quite expensive, at least based on my opinion and on my budget. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this informational, useful, and I will see you in some other video. Cheers!